But if you sell anything, you need to know the 23 rules to text message selling. I strongly believe that. And you can learn one of two ways. I'm sure you know this, Jeff. You can learn through someone else's mistakes or through your own mistakes. If you can get started early, man, you can have a much better life than trying to wait till you're 33. Now, having said that, from age 33 to age 43, I read at least one book per week. The number one reason that we fail in life, number one, is being married to the wrong person. There's not a better condition to be in than in a state of gratitude and thankfulness. That's because I got fired from several dealerships, but I wasn't being the most responsible father. If you're breathing, it's never too late. My passion in life is to open the blinded eyes and to inspire people.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars with my good friend Billy Merritt. Now, Billy is the inventor and pioneer of the original Facebook event, which has been recognized as the most effective marketing campaign. And Billy, you can tell me anything I'm saying wrong, but the most effective marketing campaign in the car business. And the reason I know it's good is, as a chat provider, God knows how many people that I help manage the chats from the events they have knocking off of your event, which is, of course, the best compliment in the world. And also, I promise I'm going to let you speak. Also, the founder and inventor, although not a software engineer, but told all the ingredients that need to go into Digi Ninja, which is a software platform, which is CRM for texting, because what Billy's companies focus on is text, including the book you wrote that I have. What am I missing?
I think you got it there, man. The art of text message selling is how it all started. I knew that there needed to be a manual in the car business to teach people how to talk to people virtually or through text and any type of communication, including chat. So I got that book out there. I'm glad you're a big player in the game. So I'm glad you actually have the book. And then
I do.
I decided that the software that was available could also be improved. So we did that as well. That's once I got into the vendor side of the automotive industry. So I think that's a pretty simple story.
I'm really now feeling like a slight resentment that I bought the book. I just feel like that I probably, if I worked you hard enough, could have gotten you to send me one.
I try really hard not to give away the book. One thing that I think you'll agree with is if somebody is given something for free, they may or may not even use it. But if you make them pay for it, they'll dive into it to see what they paid for.
Billy, I had a recorded conversation with Ben Gay III. Do you know that name?
It's familiar, but I do not know exactly who that is.
Okay. So Ben Gay III wrote a book called The Closers and the Closers Too. I read his book in the late 80s so many times that the cover was half worn off and the pages were falling apart, and I lent it or gave it to so many people and bought another one. He either worked with or mentored under or mentored Zig Ziglar, Norman Vincent Peale, and Think and Grow Rich. I can't think of the name now. Napoleon Hill was his personal paid mentor for 2.5 years until he passed away when he was president of a company in his early 20s, Ben Gay. Okay. So to your point about giving a book versus buying a book, Ben has a perfect 75-year-old copy of a book autographed, and I can't remember now if it was Norman Vincent Peale, but whomever. And the sides of the book are bright red, perfect. The pages are perfect. The spine isn't split in any way, but the back of the spine is completely sun-bleached. So somebody said, let me get that book autographed, and they stuck it on their shelf, and that's all they did with it. So we got to make this interesting for people not in the car business. So people that have been listening to my show know that I'm a car business background guy, whether it's retail, whether it's selling now to dealers, consulting with dealers. But this isn't all about the car business. We've had people on that were my clients, founder of Red Lobster or a race car driver or whoever, but we want to make it a little car business centric. I want to give Billy a little bit of recognition. I heard about his book and bought his book, and I read that book, and it's well done. So if you're in the car business, and customers do want to text, I strongly recommend getting The Art of Text Message Selling. Is that what it's called?
That is it. The Art of Text Message Selling. You can just search for it right there on Amazon. It'll take you straight to it.
If you're not in the car business, I don't know that I wouldn't get it if I'm in any kind of a sales that could have a customer, whether it be B2B or B2C, texting with you. I believe it would translate. I don't think it's only made for the car business. Do you agree?
We've helped a lot of real estate agents, primarily real estate in the auto industry. But if you sell anything, you need to know the 23 rules to text message selling. I strongly believe that.
Now, if you can't afford a whole book, and Billy suggests that you shouldn't get one for free because then you won't have skin in the game and you won't invest your time reading it, I will loan you mine for half of what I paid.
I tell you what, I'll do a better job than that. Just go to YouTube, Billy W. Merritt, and basically all the 23 rules are on there in video form. So if that isn't giving away the whole, the secret sauce, what is?
So breaking the rule of I don't want to give it away for free because then you won't dive in. All right. Oh, Billy, you're like the Andes Mountains. You're the land of contrast, from your rainforest to your snow-capped mountain. Okay, you're all over the place.
If I'm nothing else, I am self-contradicting. And it serves me well.
Perfect. So I'm so thrilled to have you on, Billy. I mean, for those of you not in the business, you can't be in the car business and not know who Billy Merritt is. That's all I'm going to say about that. You might see in your Facebook feeds about a dealership offering to buy back your trade or some special offer. Most likely it's through Billy's company or through somebody that learned from Billy. So he's truly a true legend. So he belongs on my show. But Billy, I'd like to start with a little bit of origin, if you don't mind. We're not scripted out. So can you tell us where you started?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to start by saying this. We're car guys, but it's my mission in life to help people, primarily young people, because when I was a young person, I was a very misdirected youth, to say the very least. It took me, I was age 33 before I got my I don't know what rating this show is, but before I got it all together, I was 33 years old. And from age 16 to age 33, I bet you I should have been dead 100 times, right? But for some reason I'm here. So now what I want to do is, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you feel young, then I want to help you too. But I have a message, and my message is very clear. You can turn your life around, and you absolutely can have everything that you ever dreamed of. You really can. I'm living proof of that. And there is some very important lessons that I learned along the way. And you can learn one of two ways. I'm sure you know this, Jeff. You can learn through someone else's mistakes or through your own mistakes. So I have a lot of young people. At one time I had up to 48 people who were under 25 years old working here. I don't have the exact numbers now, but we had 48 people under 28 years old, and maybe under 25 even. But these young people, I make it my mission to make sure they understand that their choices matter. And, if you can get started early, man, you can have a much better life than trying to wait till you're 33. Now, having said that, from age 33 to age 43, I read at least one book per week for 10 straight years. And at 43, I put that into action, and now we have the businesses that we have today.
Wow. So I'm not even going to try to get into your reading list. Are there a few that you continue to revisit, or a few that with your young people under 30 that you're saying for sure pick up this one?
You can't go wrong with anything by Napoleon Hill. You can read, if you only read one book, you could pick a few of them. Tony Robbins, Winning in the Money Game. That's, what's more important. Let's learn from someone who knows, right? And one thing that I'm very, very clear about, that I make sure that everybody needs to understand, be very particular who you take your advice from, and never listen to someone who hasn't already done what it is that you're trying to do. Because many, many times, number one, the number one reason that we fail in life, number one, is being married to the wrong person. But number two is listening to our friends and our loved ones, our family. Our family misguides us more than anybody else on the planet. It's not because they want us to fail. It's they just don't have the right information.
Expand a little bit on marrying the right person.
Well, it goes back to Napoleon Hill, and I try really hard to be a sponge and soak up. If I'm going to take, because I don't love reading, but if I'm going to take the time to read an hour a day, then I better try to remember what I read. I can't memorize it all, but I can remember what I read. Napoleon Hill said that being married to the wrong person is just an absolute recipe for failure. You absolutely cannot make it to where you want to go if your partner doesn't know where you want to go and doesn't want to make sacrifices to help get you where you want to go. So, if you can do one of two things, you can give up on your dreams or you can find the right mate.
That's very good advice.
I mean, it's just true, man. And I'm not being ugly. So many people settle. Okay. Now the 48 young people that I had working here, some of them are gone already, but there's a few that are hanging around trying to get in that inner circle of mine that are not going to college. Some are going to college. I've got 3 kids in college, by the way, my own children. But the children, the kids that are here, I call them all kids. They're young. Some of them are college material, and they'll do well in college to have a college career. Some will make excellent employees, but there are a few that have no business going to college and have no business being an employee. They need to be an entrepreneur. And it's a very few, it's a small circle of people, or it's a small percentage of people who can do it and do it well. But those who want to do it can do it if they have the right information and the right tools. And the information's out there. You just have to be willing to do a couple of things. When you read a book, the first thing you need to ask yourself, does this person know what they're talking about, or are they full of it? And if they're full of it, throw the book down. Don't regard anything they said again. But if you really believe that they know what they're talking about and they're giving you advice, that's what most books are, then do everything that person tells you to do until you find a better piece of advice. And that's hard to do. But if you listen to the people with the good advice, your life will be a lot different.
And I know that you're reading the book, Billy, because when I was trying to get my screen share tool to work here, I saw you waiting for me in the studio, and I saw while you were waiting, picked up the book. I saw you reading.
If there's downtime, if there's ever any downtime, I always have a book with me because, we only got so much time, man, and we can squander our time. The billionaires of the world, and all of us, I would think, wouldn't mind being in that class of a billionaire. All the billionaires have the same 24 hours that we do. They just use their time differently. So learning to use your time appropriately, and guess what? We're all running out of it. So it's kind of serious if you think about it. We only have so much time and we're all running out of it. Why would you waste your time putting garbage in or allowing garbage to come into your mind, which is the most precious asset that we do have?
So you're intentional. I'm so glad you're talking about this. I have a fellow at work here that I really love. He's having some struggles, had some family issues, had the loss in his family, single dad. So just going through a little bit of a tough time. And I've been talking to him about what he puts in. And he's a little bit of a literal guy. So when I'm explaining this to him, he sometimes thinks I'm coming from the rah-rah position or the motivational speaker position. And I'm trying to let him know that there's a little bit of science behind affirmation, who you intentionally have around you in your circle as far as people, where are they going, what values are they bringing, are they your friends supporting you, whatever you'll do, or your real friend holding you accountable for what you said you're going to do or whatever your values are. Reading, what you're doing is making sure that you're intending what's going in.
I'm sorry, I just have to say this. It's not a little bit of truth, man. It's the law of the universe. So anybody that thinks that it's rah-rah or woo-woo, they just don't understand what I'm really talking about. There are laws that govern this universe, and it is just as true as the law of gravity that what you put into your brain, your subconscious mind is going to pick up on, and you are going to act it out. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've talked to a lot of them, and I'm telling you this is the truth, and I've read a lot of books. Every person that I've read every successful person that has already done what I'm trying to do, and every successful person that got me to where I am, which is a long way from where I used to be. I'm experiencing a lot of success now, but it's because of the information that I put in. And it's because of acting with intention, understanding that it is a law of the universe and that you can't escape it. If you put things out there into the universe that are trashy, you're going to get things, the same thing back. You're going to get those results. If you practice, and when I say practice, because you can't just get it right, and we can't help but we're all programmed with bad information. That's why it's so important that I read so much with good information, is because I was poisoned, not intentionally, but with bad information from my teachers, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, my Sunday school teachers, my preachers. They all gave me a bunch of terrible information. They didn't know any better. They weren't trying to harm me, but they didn't understand that there's information out there that can really get you to where you're trying to go.
So, wow. So I actually understand about these people in your life not intending to give you bad information or something that can harm you. But are you able to come up with an example of something that might be coming from love and care or concern, but is actually detrimental?
Of course. I can get, hopefully we're not going to be here for, 5 or 6 hours, but I could go on and on. Number one is, your parents, if they're not rich, and most of our parents weren't rich, if you were lucky enough to be born in a rich family, that's very good. That's a good thing. Don't let anybody tell you differently. And if you were born poor like me, then get rid of this thought that rich people are bad and that they did something bad to get their money and that they're greedy, because the rich people are some of the most giving people I know. You can't help people if you don't have a lot of money, or it's much easier to help people if you have a lot of money and a lot of resources. So our family, I'm speaking as a former poor person, our families tell us things like money doesn't make you happy. Money isn't the answer. Well, that's just kind of insane for somebody to say that. All that is an excuse for why they don't have money, because I've never met a rich person that said money makes me happy and money is my purpose. They understand that adding value to the marketplace and adding value to the planet is how they got their money, and that the money is just a result of doing the right things. There's some crooked people that have a lot of money, but the overwhelming majority of wealth is built by adding value to the marketplace. So saying silly things like, it's not about the money, or don't get caught up in money, or, it's okay to be poor, and that love grows best in small houses and all those things. They say those things because they themselves don't know how to have the big house and have the money and have the security and have the wealth. Now, by the way, let me stop right here. The signals that most people are sending on social media about the big house and the big cars, most of that's BS. Most true wealthy people don't put it out there like that, but they have it. So it's not about the physical things. It's about the security and the freedom to make the choices that are best for you and your family. That's what wealth generation and wealth creation and holding on to wealth is all about. It's not about the flashy cars and the big houses. That's some of that bad programming coming out in me when I use that as an example.
Well, small self-talk is a very important thing. So what I noticed in you is if you said it wrong, you catch it, you own it, you correct it, and you move on. You're watching your self-talk.
Yes. Self-talk is the biggest part, man. So that is the biggest part. Do not let me not talk about that.
I will not let you not talk about that. If you don't mind, I just want to interject one piece, and I'll give you the floor back. To me, Billy, money is just oxygen. If you empty this room of air, all I'm thinking about is getting some air. When there's enough air in the room, I forget about it and I go into my creativity. I can live creatively instead of contracted when there's enough. I don't think about money other than when there's not enough. And as far as what you said, you can't help somebody if you don't have the resources. For those of you listening that might poo-poo it, giving your time is much more important than giving money. It could be, depending on what the situation is. Giving someone attention can obviously do a lot more than throwing money at a problem. But if you're behind on your bills and you need to work extra and can't get away to go give someone the attention, we still have a little bit of a problem. What Billy said is money gives a little bit of freedom. And it's funny, Billy, because I was on a phone call with a dear friend of mine's son just before this show. And he was having some struggle about money and the spirituality of it, love of money versus doing the right thing. He's just in that place in his life. And I let him know that I personally don't ever care about money. All I ever care about is what I'm trying to get done and what I can get done with money. I have a son that, of course, I love. He's 21 years old. His name is Max. He didn't walk or speak until he was 5 years old. He's got mild cerebral palsy, got mild autism. He's doing great now. But what I just told this fella on the phone call, because he was having a struggle about, is it okay to make money? Probably coming from that programming that you're talking about from something in his past. I let him know that one reason that I love money is that between my son's age of 1 and 11, so in that 10-year span, I know because it's on my taxes, I wrote it up, I spent about $435,000 out of pocket on medical. And I was able to say, and he's doing terrific. This is not a sob story. But what was beautiful is anything that my wife at the time or his mother came up with that could be an interesting therapy for him that was outside of insurance or unorthodox, or the immunologist in Hawaii or the Theraceut from Poland or the, whatever we did, or a hyperbaric chamber, was all about, yeah, let's try it. Yeah, let's try it. That's 12 grand. Let's try it. That's 5 grand. Let's try it. And the ranges on my, because again, it was on my income tax, were between 18 on the lightest year and 55,000 on the heaviest year for 10 years. If somebody would have told me that at the beginning, like, here's what you're going to undertake over the next 10 years, I don't know that I could have pictured getting it done. But somehow, every year, we saw what we needed. And luckily for me, I've always been in a sales business. So I've been able to impact my income by either learning more or working more. But at least I can impact it. And I was able to do something about it. Last year, I had a new baby. There was a little bit of medical there with the pregnancy. I like to feed my kids organic food. I've studied and seen what that can do for the health of the kids. So what you want to do with your money, and take care of some charities, etc. But what you want to do with your money is what it's about, what you can use it for as a tool. Now, what is it I wasn't supposed to let you not talk about or not forget to talk about?
Self-talk. I'm not going to forget about that, because I'm going to give you an example of a couple of things. Number one, a book and what I learned in that book, and it is referring to self-talk. But I want to talk about that money thing again, and people who say, your time's more important. Well, you can have more time if you have more money, because there's only there's only a few ways that you can make money. You can work for your money by trading your time for money. You can work for, you can have a few other people work for you in the small business that's trading their time for your money. You can have a big business where hundreds of people are trading their time for your money. Or if you get enough money, you can let your money work for you. And then you have all the time that you can go and spend helping all the charities and all the people you want to help with your time. But you can do way more the more money you have. The more money you have, the more things, the more freedom and the more time you have. So money is an absolute wonderful thing. I'll stop there. So I could go on and on about that and why that is. But I want to talk about self-talk, okay? Mm-hmm. I want to give you an example. You asked me about my past. I was born poor. When I was born, actually, it was a little later. We lived in a mobile home, 2-bedroom mobile home. The bedroom, my bedroom, was small enough I could touch all 4 walls, within an arm's distance like this, okay? We were happy. I didn't know we were poor, right? So that's good. But I had some wonderful parents, hardworking parents, grandparents that provided. But as I started getting new information, I came across a guy named Bob Proctor. Are you familiar with Bob Proctor?
No.
Okay, he's I'm sure he knows that guy, that being gay guy, because the Nightingale, he worked for Earl Nightingale as well. So he has a lot of YouTube videos, and I started listening to some of his stuff, and it sounded, kind of wacky, kind of woo-woo. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? But the more I studied it, the more I found out about affirmations and how affirmations really work. Now, most people, Jeff, have the wrong idea about affirmations. They think that it's a magic spell that, you say, or that you chant, or whatever it is. that you say this magic spell, and if you meditate just right, and you hold your fingers right, and you cross your legs right, and you look at the right spot in the sky, that you magically get this thing that you're desiring, that you will kind of name it, claim it type thing. But it's not. What a real affirmation is saying something or putting something into your mind with such intention, such repetition, and such emotion that your subconscious, which controls the majority of what we do, you don't have to tell yourself to breathe. When you drive home from work, you're not thinking about changing lanes and looking in the rearview mirror and hitting the brakes when somebody's in front of you. Your subconscious mind is doing this. So in order for our subconscious mind to act out what we want, we have to put that into our brain, into our mind rather, through repetition, emotion, and intention. And it's a law of a universe. It is not woo-woo. It is not a little bit of truth. It is the law, the governing law of the universe. It's all the way back to reap what you sow. There's so many ways that people say it, but they don't explain how to get it. So if you want to reap what you sow, you need to be sowing that which you want. So I'm going to give you an example that I used when I was a very challenged person that did not have the money figured out. And before we were on this show, you were talking about the fact that I have, a private plane, and I have the businesses. You mentioned the businesses on here. But remember, I told you, don't ever take advice from somebody who hasn't already done what you're trying to do or what you want to do. So, I have a whole lot of financial success now, real estate, businesses, equity, cash, stocks, retirements, a lot of things, worth a lot of money that I acquired by adding value to the marketplace, but by also teaching myself that I needed and that I deserved this money. So I'm going to give you a mantra, if you will. I'm going to give you a affirmation that helped me get to where I am today. And I still use it to this day to get to the next level, because the more money I have, the more freedom I have. Is that okay?
I got my pen out.
Okay. You can I think you're recording this, so you can go back and watch it. Now, remember, doing this with intention and with emotion is very important. You might look silly the first time you do it. So when you're in the car by yourself, that's when I used to do it when I was driving to work. I am so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I am so happy and grateful.
Say it again.
I'm going to say it again, because you got to do it 10,000 times if you want it to work. I am so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I am so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Say that to yourself 10,000 times. You can't help but be changed.
Can I offer something here?
Please.
Wow. Okay. So I'm resonating with you so much. You're so up my alley. Oh my God. I just love you. What you said about the affirmations, we have about when you drive and you don't pay attention to your turn signal and mirror, et cetera. This is all happening at a subconscious level. I agree with you that everything that we're good at, we do on a subconscious level. We don't think about which side we start on brushing our teeth. We don't think about if we inhale or exhale on our backstroke on a golf course. I mean, whatever we can do well, we don't have to think about. So what a flight, and you have a plane. So what a flight simulator is for professional pilots or fighter pilots, I guess now on anyone's computer, you could have a flight simulator. But what a flight simulator is, Billy, is the same thing that you're describing. This is putting in the subconscious over and over and over and over again, a scenario that a pilot will go through so that if that emergency situation really happens, or that scenario, how to land with a crosswind, whatever, really happens, the pilot has already experienced it, although they've never experienced it.
Yes, I have a simulator in my pool house, man. I have the three screens, and I have all the different programs to give you all those things you're talking about that you hopefully you never experience. But in piloting, and I think the same can be true in life itself, the old adage that you rise to the occasion is not true. You're not going to just, I have a little bit of mixed martial arts background, so I could do well against a lot of people, but if some guys from the UFC showed up and said, "Hey, let's spar." I'm not going to rise to their level. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fall to the level of my most intense training. So that's what the flight simulator, anything you do repetitively for a purpose, you better do it an awful lot if you want to get good at it, because you're not going to rise to the occasion when you're needed, when that extra intelligence and that extra oomph and all that's needed. You're not going to know how to fly that plane if you haven't practiced it in a simulator, or at least with a safety pilot with you. You have to train in whatever scenario it is that you want out of life.
Well, your affirmation, though, really, to me, is that flight simulator in that. So here's what we have. We have current reality and our vision. So at one time in your life, you had a current reality that you weren't so happy with. I understand that you still aspire for more. That is what it is. But there was a time where you weren't really happy with your situation, and you created in your mind a stronger vision than what current reality was. So what we have is all humans, a conscious, a subconscious, and a creative subconscious. So what we do consciously, we're not really that good at. If it's something that you have to really, really think about, if you were going to land that plane and there was that crosswind or whatever was going on, and you didn't have it down pat into your subconscious where you could do it with half your brain tied behind your back, and you're operating consciously, like counting every breath, there's a good chance that something could go wrong.
Absolutely.
If I told you to walk toe to toe from one end of the room to the other on a bet, or for $10, you would do it, no problem. If I put you on a 2-foot wide board and put it between 2,000-foot high buildings and said, go ahead and walk toe to toe for 10 grand, there's a good chance you wouldn't take me up on it. You'd be thinking so much about it, even though the amount of ground that you need for your feet is really the same. You'd have a foot on either side of them. Okay. So the reason, and when I was selling exotic cars, I dealt with a lot of what I call windfall people. Believe me, I dealt with a lot of business people, a lot of people that earned it, who knows? But when I said I dealt with a lot of windfall people, I ran into an inordinate amount of people who won a lottery, got an inheritance, got a baseball contract, sold a business. So what's interesting is even somebody that sold a business, you'd think that they would be more disciplined, but often when they would make, let's say, a good living, a few $100,000 a year, but now all of a sudden they have a couple of million at once, they would have to get rid of that money. So here's what I mean. Battered women, or I guess let's even abused husbands. So abused people in a relationship often go back to that person or to that kind of a relationship. The person who yo-yo diets, who loses weight and puts it back on, or the person, my windfall people, win a lottery, sell a business, get an inheritance, whatever. There's books written and studies done on lottery winners that most of them go broke. The reason is the way the creative subconscious sees them is I'm broke, I'm abused, I'm overweight or unhealthy, whatever. And the creative subconscious, its only job is to keep things the way they are. So the subconscious only records everything, and that's what you're putting in with your affirmation. It only records, it doesn't judge, it doesn't say good or bad. So it could record, I'm so happy and grateful, et cetera, multiple sources, greater quantities. It could be recording that is current reality, but it could also be recording, I don't deserve, I am something negative, I'm always late. It's not judging. It's just recording. And then the creative subconscious has to keep everything the way it is. So when you're doing your affirmation, and I love it, and by the way, I couldn't keep it all down, but you're right, we're recording this, and I will note this because I love your affirmation. The affirmation, and when you said put emotion in it, is the feeling that you have associated with having this.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. When you keep saying it, you can't help but start feeling differently. And then when you allow yourself, when you intentionally allow yourself to, number one, feel very, very grateful, very thankful, but feel excited that money comes to you in increasing quantities through multiple sources. And the idea that starts becoming fact, you get more and more emotionally involved in a good way, good emotions. Because as you said, your subconscious is not going to judge. If you say you're unlucky and you say it with enough enthusiasm and enough times, you're going to be unlucky. I'm the luckiest person I know, by the way.
Thanks for saying that. So now, and I'll definitely want to give the floor back to you, but I love this topic. So when you're saying this affirmation and over time, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, I'm so happy and grateful, this becomes reality for your subconscious. And then it's your creative subconscious job to get things back to how they are.
That's the law of the universe, man.
Yep. Except you created how things are.
You created it either way.
Affirmations about my relationship, my marriage, my relationship with my kids, how I feel about myself, my health. I mean, anything that matters to you, your ministry, what you do for others. I mean, your spirituality, all of this is on your balance wheel. You really need all of it.
You're right. We absolutely need to bring all these things, our relationship, our parenting skills, all these things into balance with the way we ideally want them to be. And there is not a better state, Jeff, than a state of gratitude. So I'm going to give you my ultimate affirmation right here. You've already heard part of it. And that is, I am so happy and grateful that I am happy and grateful.
Perfect.
There's not a better condition to be in than in a state of gratitude and thankfulness, because it creates more gratitude and things to be thankful for. So that's the perfect situation to be in, is an attitude of, I am so happy and grateful that I'm happy and grateful. If I can wake up every single day and be happy and grateful, that's enough. But here is a personal example of how my self-programming, it's more than self-talk, it's self-programming. When you say it enough and you do it enough and you do it in a state of faith with emotion, baptized in emotion, you can't help but change. So I was in a job. And by the way, I think we talked about this earlier on my podcast. I was never the best employee. I was a very effective employee, so I could get a job and I could make some money selling. I was in sales like you, but I just didn't like rules and things like that. So I struggled. I got fired. You mentioned I worked for a lot of dealerships. That's because I got fired from several dealerships. I couldn't toe the line and do it their way. I always wanted to do it Billy's way, and that worked against me for a long time. But at my last job, I was the general manager of a dealership, and my goals and aspirations were to become a partner in the dealership. Okay. Now, I'd already been practicing. I'm so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I just didn't have the right plan. So sometimes when you start doing this, you're going to go through a lot of discomfort, because the best plan may not be the most logical plan to you. Jeff, you'll understand this. Okay, let me ask you some questions to get this point across. If I'm at a B lot where we have 100 cars and we're selling 80 cars per month, putting up $200,000 in gross, and I want to become a 50% partner in that, what type of annual income, what type of future, what type of goals would be attainable in a situation like that, monetarily?
What kind of goals would be attainable? What kind of income would be attainable if you're a 50% partner at that store? Throwing up $200,000 a month, it's making $2.4 million a year. You're going to make $1 million, unless it's minus expense.
Yep. So, and it is minus expense. So, I think my goals were, okay, I'm become a partner.
You're going to make $300,000.
I want to make $250,000 to $300,000 per year. I'm going to save my money, and then, I'll eventually buy into a new car franchise. And when I'm 50, when I'm 60, I can have, a nice house on the coast, whatever. That was my plan to get to, we'll say, $5 to $10 million. $5 to $10 million nest egg. You can kind of live in a decent place on the coast and have a pretty decent life, right? So that was my plan. And I was sacrificing. I was doing a lot of sacrificing to try to put this plan into action. But by the way, you can't do any of this without some type of sacrifice. And another law for another podcast is the law of sacrifice, and how you must not sacrifice in vain. Make sure your sacrifice is with intention as well, and for a purpose. So I was sacrificing. I thought I was sacrificing for my career as a new car dealer. Meanwhile, I got fired. Okay. After 3 years of sacrificing, pouring everything I had into this, you know the drill, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, 6 days a week to get the job done, to take them from 20 cars to 60 cars to 80 cars to 100 cars. You know, you have to do a lot of sacrificing. Well, the owner's still the owner. And even though you're doing all these things, he can still do what he wants to do, including fire you when you have a disagreement about a Facebook event. So I left there, and this was less than 5 years ago, Jeff. And I went home. And I told my wife that I just got fired. Now, she doesn't handle stress as well as I do, but we still are a very good team, and she sees the vision, so she helps me, whatever that vision is. I said, but I have a plan, or I have an idea. Now, it wasn't my plan. It was just, it was programmed. That creative subconscious, I guess you could say, gave it to me, or you could say that God gave it to us, however you want to say that it happened. A plan and an idea came up to where I would use Facebook events to help car dealers all over the country. I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I had enough to buy some plane tickets to go visit a few dealerships. What resulted was something monetarily and in every way 10 times monetarily better, but 100 times in every other way better than running a dealership. Now I've worked with over 2,000 dealerships across the country. I don't have any inventory. I have my real estate and all my equipment in my call center that we serve these dealers with, and I'm making more money than I can't say than I hoped to, because I remember I was always using those affirmations, but I had a whole lot of doubt. So you have to do these things, and even though there's doubt there, you have to keep persisting with the emotion and practicing your faith in spite of the doubt until your new current reality, your vision becomes your reality. But I got a reality that was better than I even saw. So it's not important to have the perfect plan. It's just important to start taking action and steps towards your vision with faith and an open mind.
You exceeded your plan.
Yes, 10x for sure. So that is what going for it will do for you if you do it in a state of faith and just keep practicing those affirmations. And you have to work your ass off, by the way.
Billy, it's called dissonance. So when your inside doesn't match your outside. And when I was talking to Ben Gay, I knew the concept, and I know you know the concept, but he worded it perfectly. He was born into a family of means in Atlanta. Grew up in a country club. His father was a good salesperson or sales manager, but in the sales business did well. The people in the country club were Coca-Cola executives and various businesses that had branches in Atlanta, which is plenty of them. So this is where he grew up. When he got married, and he told his father he was going to get married, his father said, "Congratulations, I think she's a terrific girl. And the gravy train has ended. Now it's on you to take care of everything." He was already living in an apartment as a bachelor pad with a buddy, and didn't have much, but the gravy train had not ended. His dad was helping him out from time to time. So he moved into a place with his new wife. It was a 2-room, not 2-bedroom, a 2-room apartment, wash dishes in the bathtub, and half the furniture that he took from his bachelor pad, if you could imagine. And this, to me, this explains it. And I'm not the shortest, I'm not so unwordy, but this is perfect. He said, compared to his previous life, "I don't belong here." That's it. So what happens is, with your affirmations, that creates a reality that's stronger than what's current. And you're saying, or your subconscious saying, "I don't belong here." And it feels more comfortable to have the more comfortable surrounding in your case, because that's what you wanted.
That's right. I created that internally, and everybody, you can do that too. You can create it internally. And once you create that internally, you realize, "I don't belong here." Those opportunities, your subconscious, as Jeff pointed out, will start looking for those opportunities, kind of forcing those opportunities into fruition, and you will get to where you belong. You will get to that reality that you've been creating, to all those seeds that you've been putting out there. I tell you this, one time back in 2015, I was standing in a parking lot looking down the interstate. I was doing an event for this car dealer, and I still do events today, but I was doing it the old school way with direct mail, and it was getting stale. So I was standing out there on the parking lot looking down the interstate, and I was saying, I am so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. And I was putting that out there into the universe and down that interstate. Fast forward 5 years, when the Facebook event started, I went back to that dealership, same place I was in, and it was a totally different reality. Not people were just rushing in there to buy cars. You know, that affirmation that I put out there 3, 4, 5 years earlier was coming true in the present moment. It's just an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to experience.
So if you don't mind, and you know, we're not scripted here, this just came to mind for me about motivating people who might think, it's too late, or there's not enough runway left for me. What age are you, or what age range are you?
46 right now.
Okay. So you're 46, and you said that you really didn't get serious in business till you were, what, 33?
Yeah, but actually, I was not serious in business. I was not serious about life. At 33 years old, talking about I don't belong here. I woke up one morning when I was 33 years old. I already had my first son, but I wasn't being the most responsible father. You know, I was there, but I was drinking too much, and I was just not being the father that I needed to be. And I woke up one morning. I said, I'm gonna go for a run. I'd always been an athlete, so I'm gonna go for a run. I'm gonna run down a mile, and I'm gonna run back a mile. Well, about 200 yards down past from the beginning, I had to stop, and I was out of breath, and I was out of shape, and my lifestyle just fell on top of me right there. And I saw who I was and where I was, what my current reality was. And I walked back home, and I went into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked myself in the eyes, and I said, this is not me. This is not me. I do not belong here. This is not who I want to be. And that day, at that very moment, I changed my life, man. And I started putting things into action. And I haven't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I got my thoughts together. I got my goals together, and I started reading. And I started with Think and Grow Rich, and I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I said, look, I have a money problem, by the way, because I'm not being the most responsible person. So let me get my money right. So I started reading people who already got their money right, and I started learning some things. And for 10 years, I did pretty well. I got better each year. At 43, it all came together. And it's just like all the programming that I did from 33 to 43 started happening. And then from 43 to today, I mean, it's like being a rocket ship, man, like to the moon and to Mars. So it's just been an amazing thing to happen. But, so at 30, if you're 33, it's definitely not too late. If you're 43, it's definitely not too late. I'm 46. My 2021 is going to be better than my 2020. So it's never too late, man. If you're breathing, it's never too late. You can do it. You can start programming yourself right now for a better tomorrow.
Start programming yourself now for a better tomorrow. Billy, when I invited you on the show, I'm thinking, let me just be honest. I'm thinking vendor to the car business. This isn't really a vendor fest show necessarily for dealers. This is really for people that might enjoy some car business stories that aren't in the business, or might enjoy some car business stories that are in the business. But this show has been so uplifting for me because I've had some conversations with some people that have really, really, really enriched my life. And I feel like that way right now with you, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm getting a lot out of this, and I'm really praying that the guest or the audience, because what I really want and what you really want is something for the person listening, some value. I hope they're getting what I'm getting. This is beautiful.
Someone will. And the fact that you and I are kindred spirits, that we're both getting the same. When I had you on the show the first time, I'm like, who is this cat? What's he really about? Let me see what he's got. I learned an awful lot from you, and I could tell there was something deeper there. So, when you invited me on the show, I'm like, I think I can bring something of value. Smith, my producer, he told me what he said. This is not a car show for vendors. I said, I don't even like this. I mean, can I be honest? I don't even like being a vendor for car dealers. It's just how I made my money. You know what I'm saying? My passion in life is to open the blinded eyes and to inspire people. I'm not a motivator. I hope I motivate you a little bit, but to wake people up and to let you understand what's really going on. You are creating your reality, and you can create the reality you want. I got to say this before I forget about it, okay? You can edit this and put it wherever you want to. Another huge key beyond the affirmations is to sit down and fantasize, to absolutely sit down and fantasize about your dream life and what it would look like. And I wish I had it in here. I have notebooks and notebooks of where I wrote my goals down in the present tense. You know, one of them was I fly my own jet. Well, I don't have a jet yet, but I do fly my own plane, right? So, and then one of them was a dollar amount that I would make in residual income, and that's already checked off. There's so many things that I've checked off. But I sat down, Jeff, and I wrote a story, like a novel, a day in a novel, my dream life, with how that would go from morning to working out on the beach to getting on a plane and going to see dealers, to meeting with dealers, inspiring salespeople. That's my biggest calling, is to help salespeople. Inspiring salespeople, helping them improve their lives, get back on my plane and fly back into the Amelia Island airport and go home. Now, a lot of that is still fantasy because I don't have a home on the beach yet. But we have done all of that. I fly to see dealers. I fly my plane to Fernandina, to Amelia Island. I stay on the beach. I get up and I work out on the beach. All these things I'm doing, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write another day, another chapter, and I'm going to add to my fantasy, because when you do that with emotion and you allow yourself to daydream, your daydreams become your reality.
I am with you all the way.
If you haven't noticed, Smith is a big fan, because half of the videos that I post on my, he does all the posting for me. Half the videos that I post on my YouTube and that I post on my Facebook and I post on LinkedIn and I post on Twitter, you can find me in all those places too. But half the videos that I post now have Jeff as on there with me. So he really likes the message you brought to my people as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad we met.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on, and I'll be thrilled to come back anytime.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.